In this video, I want to do quadratic equations, and we are going to solve quadratic equation using a quadratic formula as well. So I will introduce the quadratic formula in this video as well. But I also want to remind you guys how to factorize a trinomial, because factorizing a trinomial is very important for your mathematics. Well, factorizing in general, but you have to also focus a bit on factorizing a trinomial. You must know that. So I will revise it quickly with you guys over here. So as you can see, we have two questions here, and they are both trinomials, meaning that they have three terms, 1, 2, 3. Now a trinomial behaves as follows. So we have ax squared plus bx plus c. That's how a trinomial behaves, right? So we have the first term, the term with the x squared, and then you have the last term, the term with the c. And we use those two especially to factorize. Now, if the first term, or the term with the x squared, has a coefficient of 1, then we can use the shortcut in order to factorize. We can say open up two brackets, take the factors of x squared. Factors mean that numbers or things that can multiply to give you x squared. So we know x times x can give us x squared. So those are the factors of x squared. We put them there. Then you look at the c value, and you look for the factors of 12, and then you look here, they could subtract each other to give you this number here, -1. So the factors of 12 that can subtract each other to give you 1 will be 4 and 3. Remember, 4 times 3 is 12. And when they subtract each other, they give you that 1. Now, between these two factors, 4 and 3, the 4 must be minus and the other one must be plus. So that you say -4 plus 3 is -1. So what I'm saying is that if the coefficient of x squared is 1, we can always use the shortcut in order to factorize. So again, we take the factors of x squared, and then we want the factors of 16 that can add each other to give us 8. That is 4 times 4 is 16. 4 plus 4 is 8. Now with the signs, if they are adding each other, then they must have the same sign as the middle term. So they both are positive like that. So that's how we would factorize using the shortcut. But now the coefficient in this case is no longer 1. Now this time we are going to have to use the long factorization. I'm going to take the first term, which is 2x squared. I'm going to find its factors. So the factors of 2 are 1 and 2. The factors of x squared are x and x. All right, those are the only factors I have. I'm going to take the last term and find its factors as well. So the factors of 10 are 1 times 10, 2 times 5. Then I want to cross multiply these factors so that I get some answers here that will ultimately end up giving me the middle term, which is -9x, right? So I need to choose the factors of 2x squared. These are the factors. I take x, I take 2x, and then I need to choose these factors in such a way that I will end up getting a -9x. So in this case, I know that these answers here that I'll get, they will need to add each other because the middle term is positive there. I mean, the last term, the c value, is positive. So I know whatever answers I need to get needs to add. So if they do need to add, that means that I could take a 2 here and a 5 here. So I'm picking these factors because x times 5 gives us 5x, and then you say 2x times 2 gives us 4x, and then you want to make sure that you are adding them. Both they must have the sign of the middle term. So minus minus gives you -9x. And that's it. So that means that these are the factors. So you put brackets around them, you take these signs to put them in here, take these signs to put them in there. So that means that x minus 2 and the 2x minus 5 are your factors. Let's try this one over here. Again, I have a coefficient that is not 1. So I'll take this term and find their factors. So I have 5x squared, and I find the factors, which is 1x and 5x. Then the factors of 49, I have 1 times 49, I have 7 times 7. All right, so then I want to cross multiply them so that I get the middle term. So I will get some answers there that will ultimately give us 44, negative 44x. Now, according to the C value, it's negative. So these answers must actually subtract to give you negative 44x. So here having 1x and 5x, and then I need to choose the factors of 49 that will eventually lead to negative 44x. So that means that I would have to choose 1 and 49 because I will be cross multiplying them. So 1x times 49 is 49x, and then 5x times 1 is 5x. And then when you subtract 49 with the 5, so I have minus 49 and a positive 5 will give us negative 44x. So that works out nicely. So that means that these are now our factors. So just guys, make sure that you do so let's bring the signs in here. Make sure you know how to factorize, because factorization is very important when trying to solve for quadratic equations. Now let's go ahead and solve some quadratic equations. How do you actually solve a quadratic equation? Well, solving it, you always want to have it in the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So this first question is already in standard form. After you have it in standard form, you want to make sure that you factorize. So that's why we learned how to factorize previously, because you need to factorize this. So factorizing it, I know there's a coefficient of 1, so I can use the shortcut. Now I'm looking for the factors of 24 that can add to give me 11. And that should be 8 and 3. So I'm going to have a 8, I'm going to have a 3. Then because it's plus, they both are going to have the same sign as the middle term. Now I have factorized. After I have factorized, we have to take each bracket and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to take this bracket, set it equal to 0. And then I'm going to take this bracket, set it equal to 0. The question here is very easy. Like, how can you take two brackets, multiply them, and get an answer of 0? So if I have a bracket and another bracket, how is it possible that they can multiply each other and give you 0? It's easy. It's when one of the brackets is actually 0. So if this maybe make this 2 times 0 is 0, or 0 times 2 is 0, or both of them can be 0. So 0 times 0 is 0. So that's why we're going to do this. We're going to say, well, this yellow bracket, x minus 8 must be equal to 0, or this one, x minus 3 must be equal to 0. Therefore, x is equals to 8, x equals to 3, when you take the 8 and the 3 to the other side. So that's how you solve a quadratic equation. Make sure you have it in standard form, make sure you factorize, and make sure you set each bracket equal to 0. Find your final answers. All right, now if you understand the steps, you will notice that for this question here, question number 2, it's already factorized for us. So all we have to do is set each bracket equals to 0, or the other bracket again equals to 0. So you're going to get 2x equals to 1. So then x is equals to 1 over 2. And then here we're going to get x equals to minus 3. And that's how you solve this question. All right, so let's do this one here. As you can see, it's a quadratic equation. Why is it a quadratic equation? Because of that x squared over there, right? But to solve this one, I have to factorize by taking out a common factor. That's how I'll have to factorize this one. So I factorize, I take out a common factor of x, I'm left with x plus 4 equals to 0. Then again, this will be my yellow bracket, this will be the blue bracket. So I say x equals to 0, or x plus 4 equals to 0. So then x is equals to minus 4. Again, here in this question, it is a quadratic equation. To to solve this, I can factorize. It's a difference of two squares. X plus 2, x minus 2 equals to 0. It's factorized. X plus 2 equals to 0, or x minus 2 equals to 0. So then x is equals to minus 2, x is equals to 2. Alternatively, we could have solved it this way. Have x squared minus 4 equals to 0. We need to take that to the other side. So we're going to have x squared equals to 4. Then we are going to root on both sides. Then we're going to get the square root of x is x. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 4 is 2. But because we rooted, we have to introduce a plus minus. So the answer can be positive 2 or minus 2, just like we have over here. Let's now solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Now, the reason you would use a quadratic formula is because your sum cannot be factorized. I do advise that if your quadratic equation can be factorized, just factorize and finalize your answer. But if you cannot factorize, then that's where you use the quadratic formula. So in this case, this sum over here can be factorized. So I can just factorize this and solve for x. So to factorize it, I will say, well, the factors of 3x, so let me write it here, 3x squared are going to be x and 3x. The factors of 4 will be 1 and 4, 2 and 2. So actually, I'll have x, 3x. Then I'll choose to put the 1 here and the 4 here. So these are the factors. I'm going to choose them this way. So then, as you can see, if I make this a plus, I make this a minus, it does give me plus x. So it has been factorized to plus here, minus here. So that means that I have a x minus 1 and I have a 3x plus 4. Therefore, x minus 1 equals to 0, or 3x plus 4 equals to 0. So then x is equals to 1, 3x equals to minus 4, so then x is equals to minus 4 over 3. So I can factorize and actually get my answer. But I also want to show you with the sum is that you can straight ahead and use the quadratic formula. I advise to factorize if you can factorize, but if you don't know how to factorize, then you can just use the quadratic formula, which is then 3x squared plus x minus 4. So let's use the quadratic formula on the side here. All right, so the quadratic formula goes like x equals to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Divide this whole thing by 2a. Now, what you want to do is you want to get in the habit of actually writing the quadratic formula until you actually understand it or you memorize it. So the standard form here, remember, it goes ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So that means that the a is actually the 3, the b is actually the invisible one there, and the c value is actually the minus 4. So you want to substitute all that data into your quadratic formula. So you say minus, where there's a b, you want to put the 1, plus minus the square root of. Where there's a b, you put the 1, minus 4. Where there's a you put the 3. Where there's a c, you put a minus 4. And you want to divide this whole thing by 2. Where there's a you put the 3. Now, because of this plus minus here, you're going to have two x values, right? So we'll have two x values. The first one is going to come when you punch this whole thing into the calculator with the root being minus, and then the other one is where the root is positive. So let's do that together in the calculator. Let me just pull up my calculator so that we can both see in the calculator. All right, so what we want to do is you want to now punch or type in, use the fraction sign, and then let's put minus bracket 1 bracket Then we're going to use the root as minus to get our first value. Then you want to say 1 bracket squared minus. You can just punch it in as it is, or you can do simplify it a little bit if you want, but also just using a calculator. I think that's why you would use a quadratic formula. All right, then you say 2 bracket 3, and then our first answer is negative 4 over 3. So let's put that down, negative 4 over 3, and the other answer will be 1. But let's just let me show you how you would change. You just need to go to that minus there, be on the right side of it, and then just remove it, delete it, then put the plus, and you will get the other value. So again, that's why you would use a quadratic formula is actually when you can't factorize, but you should know how to factorize. But whenever a sum is not, you can't, if you cannot factorize it, if a sum is not factorizable, then you use a quadratic formula. Let's practice a few more questions. Over here, we can clearly see it's not in standard form. So we are going to make it into standard form first by multiplying the 9 inside and then bringing the 7x over here. But it's still not in standard form, so I'm going to write 9x squared minus 7x minus 9 equals to 0. So now I have it in standard form. And the factors of 9x squared and negative 9, that will give you 7. You don't have any of those factors. So what we do then, use the quadratic formula. So you say therefore x is equals to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then you want to divide this whole thing by 2a. Then let's substitute. So where there's a b, we put the minus 7 because that's the b, plus or minus the square root of. Where there's a b, put minus 7 squared minus 4. Where there's a a, you put the 9. Where by the c, you put a negative 9. And then, oops, let me just make that line a bit lower. All right, so I'm taking away from this negative, but there's a negative here. So then you have the 2 over, where there's a you put the 9. All right, then you use your calculator to find the answers. So I'm also going to punch it into my calculator, and I will get the corresponding answers. We're usually rounding off to 2 decimal places. So I will have on my calculator, let me actually bring up the calculator so you can see. I will substitute minus 7, and I give me a positive 7 minus bracket of 49 minus 4 times, well, let's say times 9 and times negative 9. I'm just simplifying my values as I put them in the calculator. All right. So my first answer with the negative, okay, negative 0.68. So negative 0.68 is my first value. And then the next value, I just go change that negative into a plus, and we get 1.46. So that's 1.46. All right, let's try another one. Over here with this question, we do have a negative here, but since we are going to use the quadratic formula, let's just substitute everything into the quadratic formula. So minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, divide this whole thing by 2a. Then you want to say, we have minus, where there's a b, put the 5, plus minus the root of. We want to put the 5 again, squared, minus 4. And then by the a, you put minus 3, minus 8. Then you say 2 over, by the a, you want to put minus 3 again. And then we want to punch it out. So that will be our next line. So then we have x equals 2 or x equals 2. We're going to round off to 2 decimal places again. So let's bring back the calculator and let's punch it in. So we have minus 5 outside plus, well, I'll start with the minus root, negative the root of 25, the negative the root of 25, and then see what happens here. So I have 25 minus 4 times minus 3, and I also have a minus 8. Right, so this actually is going to give us a no solution, and I will explain now in a minute why it will do that. So the answer is error, and it does that because look at what's under the root. Under the root, I have minus 25, and this minus 4 times minus 3 times minus 8 will give us a big negative number. It will be, what is that, minus positive 12, so that'll be negative 96. So you have 25 minus negative 90. Well, 25 minus 96 will give you a negative root over here. So if you have a negative root, it means that you have a non-real number. So that's why you're going to have a no solution here. So again, I repeat, 25 minus 96 is no solution. All right, so let's look at this question here as well. This question is probably going to give us a no solution as well, because we're going to substitute in here plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then you're going to have a 2a. So when you're substituting, you're going to get minus 1 plus minus the root of 1 squared minus 4. The a is 1, the c is 1. We have the same scenario going on over there in the brackets. We're going to have the root of 1 minus 4, and that's going to give us a no solution again.